Welcome to this explainer. Imagine dawn breaking over a bustling global port. You see these massive ships cutting through the water, right? But here's the thing. They don't just run on fuel. They are literally propelled by paper and ink. Today, we're taking a grand tour of the invisible legal documents that actually move the world's physical economy. We're looking at the Standard Dry Cargo Charter Party Forms Reference Guide. These are the master scripts of global logistics. And honestly, seeing how they're organized is absolutely fascinating.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's a massive question. When millions of tons of wheat, coal, or timber cross the oceans, what stops the whole system from descending into pure chaos? Well, the answer lies in a highly structured, meticulously crafted architecture of standard forms. These aren't just your everyday contracts. They're the universally recognized rules of engagement for moving human civilization's most essential raw materials. We're going to explore exactly how this complex web of trade is held together by these really distinct, powerful documents.
Section 1. The Architecture of Global Shipping. Voyage versus period.
So the crucial point is that the maritime world is strictly divided into two distinct operational protagonists. First, we have voyage forms, and these are entirely cargo-specific. They represent a single, focused mission, just moving a specific load from point A to point B. In contrast, period forms are time-based charters. This is where the massive vessel itself is hired out for a specific duration, regardless of how many individual journeys it makes. It's kind of like the difference between buying a plane ticket for one flight versus renting out the entire jet for a year. But who actually writes these epic, standardized contracts? Well, think of them as the major studios of global shipping. They're drafted by a handful of global institutions. Organizations like BIMCO, ASPA, FONASBA, the historic UK Chamber of Shipping, and the Japan Shipping Exchange, Inc. These publishers are the grand architects. They draft the scripts that the entire world follows. They've got worldwide reach, and their specific seals of approval turn a standard piece of paper into an ironclad guarantee across international waters.
Section 2. General Purpose and Grain, the Golden Harvest.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the foundation of modern shipping evolved so rapidly over the 20th century, starting way back in 1922 with the Uniform General, which is famously known as GenCon, published by BIMCO. It was revised in 1944 and eventually adapted a highly structured box-type layout in 1994. Fast forward a bit to 1982, and FONASBA steps in with the multiform. These general forms, they're the versatile, everyday workhorses that were initially designed to carry just about anything across the water. But when it comes to dedicated voyage forms, a really striking pattern emerges. Check this out. While coal relies on 3 major forms and timber just 2, grain commands a massive 7 dedicated forms. This immediately reveals the vast specialized importance of the agricultural trade. The industry literally had to forge an incredibly detailed set of rules specifically to ensure the reliable movement of the global food supply.
This vital agricultural network relies on some highly localized, deeply historical documents. We've got the Baltimore Formac with its roots stretching all the way back to 1913. There's ASBA's Norgrain 89 handling North American grain. Moving across the Atlantic, we have the Cenacomex 90 for continent grain, which traces its origins to 1957. And we absolutely cannot forget the Centrocon. That one governs the River Plate trade and was established by the UK Chamber of Shipping way back in 1914. Each of these documents represents a vital artery in the global agricultural system.
And certain specific regions demand fiercely protected standards. Take Australia's grain exports, for instance. They are entirely governed by local commodity boards utilizing their own highly specialized forms. So we have Aust Wheat for Australian wheat and AUS Bar for Australian barley. It perfectly illustrates how these specialized localized boards take absolute control over their specific export documentation to ensure a perfect transit.
Section 3. Moving Heavy Industry, Coal, Ore, and Fertilizer.
Before we can build towering steel skylines, we have to nourish the earth, right? And the global fertilizer trade relies on documents with some pretty deep historical roots. There's Ferticon, the Fertilizers Charter from 1942, published by the UK Chamber of Shipping. Alongside it, Fertivoy 88 covers North American fertilizer, and the 1950 African Phos manages phosphate. Millions of tons of soil nourishment depend entirely on the precise clauses hidden within these specific forms. Now, what's really interesting about all this is the hyper-specific regional nature of moving raw power and steel. We aren't just talking about a generic coal form here. We are talking about SACF on chart specifically for South African anthracite. We have AmWelsh for Americanized Welsh coal. And for iron ore, we see the Japan Shipping Exchange's Nippon Ore alongside BIMCO's standardized Orvoy. The contracts are exactly as specialized as the rugged geological resources they're moving across the seas.
Section 4. Specialty cargoes, sugar and timber.
The global sugar network is this vibrant, deeply interconnected web, where almost every major trade corridor demands its own unique contractual character. We've got dedicated forms for bulk sugar going to the USA originating in the 1960s. We have the famous Cuba sugar. There's a specific form just for the Australia to Japan route, and even the Mauritius bulk trade operates under its own distinct MSS form. It's an incredibly fragmented, region-specific contractual landscape that basically keeps the world sweet.
The timber trade is just as distinct, and it's strictly divided by its global origins. The legal realities of Baltic wood, governed by the UK Chamber's NU Beltwood, are just worlds apart from the log trades of the Pacific, which operate under Japan's Nanyozai Charter. Even though it's all wood, the environment, the processing, and the transit require entirely different sets of operational rules.
Section 5. Period forms, time and bareboat. Let's move to and see how this builds. Renting ships by time rather than by specific cargo has its own totally distinct evolution. Starting with BIMCO's famous ball time in 1939, you can literally see the progression of modern shipping mechanics playing out across the decades. We see liner time in 1968. By 1981, ASBA brings us ASBA time, rooted in the New York Produce Exchange. As global trade modernized, we got box time in 1990, specifically for container vessels, which eventually led to the highly recognizable NYP 93. Finally, bringing our incredible roster of maritime characters to a close, we have BareCon. This is the ultimate form of chartering. Published by BIMCO in 1989, the standard bareboat charter is exactly what it sounds like. You aren't hiring a crew, and you aren't hiring a voyage. The vessel itself is hired completely bare. It is the purest, most foundational rental agreement in the global shipping architecture, literally handing over the massive steel hull entirely to the charter.
From the golden wheat fields governed by Norgrain to the heavy steel covered by Nippon Ore, we've seen the paper backbone of the world. But as we stand here today, we have to ask, with millions of tons of physical cargo relying on 100 years of perfectly crafted paperwork, how will this vast, historical architecture adapt to the digital future of global trade? The rules are set, but the medium is changing. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious, keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next one.